Nick Sirianni has had quite the odd experience being a head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles this season, so it started off with a lot of criticism. In fact, it kind of goes back to last year when the Eagles had a really good start, started 11-1, only won one game the rest of the way, and got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Many people wanted Sirianni fired for how that season ended, and again, Eagles fans are kind of notoriously quick to pull the trigger on their head coaches, right? They're a very passionate fan base and is not okay with mediocrity. And it's interesting with Sirianni, who has now seen 2 Super Bowls in the past 3 seasons. In his 4 years as head coach, they've been to the Super Bowl twice. I want to get into it and talk about how good of a coach is he really? Because he gets a lot of criticism. He's also had a lot of success. So what's going on? And I think we have to kind of start with this season. Because first, while all the fire Nick Sirianni stuff that the Eagles fans were very much doing early on this year seems kind of crazy now, there were some legitimately head-scratching things he was doing. Like this was the worst decision he's made in his career, in my opinion. There's 14 seconds left. They're down 3 points into half against the New Orleans Saints on a 4th down and 1 with the Eagles only having 1 timeout. As you can see, they go for it and do this fake tush push to get Saquon Barkley. They don't convert. Even if they did convert, you'd have 10 seconds left and no timeouts at the 14-yard line. You'd probably have to just kick the field goal anyway. Maybe they thought they were going to get a touchdown off of this. That's the only thing I can think of, and it just didn't work out. But that made no sense. I don't understand it. That was weird. But then there were also early on in the season some I think debatable calls. So this one was a 3rd down and 3. The Eagles were up 3 points against the Atlanta Falcons with a minute 46 left. The Atlanta Falcons are out of timeouts right here. So your decision is simple on a 3rd and 3. Do you want to run the ball, make sure you keep running the clock, but the Falcons are going to be playing for the run, or do you decide to throw the ball, give yourself a higher chance at converting this play and winning the game outright? But if it doesn't work out, that's 40 extra seconds you could have burned off the clock if it's an incomplete pass. Hurts on this play ran sort of a play fake, flipped it to Saquon Barkley, who simply just dropped the football. Had he caught the football, they would have won the game, and that's kind of why I never really blamed Sirianni for this, because his play call worked, the players just didn't execute. So I don't know. I don't really blame him for this, but people did. People were upset, saying, hey, this is 40 seconds. The Falcons did come back and win that game, and that's one that definitely there was some criticism on. Also, this situation was very funny. So the Eagles are 5-2 at this point and are up 12 points with 7.5 minutes left in the 4th quarter. So they're about to be 6-2. So it wasn't just when the Eagles struggled early on. It was here as well. So the Eagles kind of kept going for 2 in specific situations, and they kept getting stopped to the point where the crowd started booing them going for 2, even in a situation where it makes sense, right? You want to go up a clean 14 here.
I think the Eagles fans are booing again because Sirianni is going for 2 again. They just want to see an extra point. He just throws it up, and it is incomplete. And a late flag comes out.
Yeah, so that was kind of funny. But as a whole, okay, that's the storyline. That's what happened here. Things were maybe not working out, and the crowd was getting frustrated. But as the Eagles kept winning, it kind of became harder and harder to have criticisms towards Nick Sirianni. Of course, he had the famous moment when he yelled at his own fans that I showed at the beginning of this video against Cleveland. I got into an argument with some of the fans in the crowd is probably the better way to phrase that. But how is he as a coach? Well, again, it's debatable, but I think really the main thing that why there's maybe some people that are lower on Sirianni than the results would show is 4th down decision-making and how we view 4th down decision-making. If you look at this chart right here, this is how often teams go for it on 4th downs when analytics say they should. And you can agree or disagree with this, but this is taking out situations where a team has greater than 80% chance to win. How often do you go for it when analytics say you should? You see number 2 on the list is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Lions are number 1 for bullet, Eagles number 2. So I showed some examples of it not working, and whenever it doesn't work, you notice it, right? You recognize it because it's a big swing in the game. Whereas if you decide to punt when you probably should have gone for it, unless it's late in the game, that's not something you really notice as much because it's just not as big of a swing, right? You're kind of, by design, making the bad play not as bad by, instead of having a turnover, you punt the ball away. So just naturally, when you're watching a game, you're going to notice a team getting stopped on fourth more than you're going to notice a too conservative punt. And the flip side is something like this. So this was a 4th down and 5 in the Commanders-Eagles game in a huge spot. The Eagles are up 2 points with 2 minutes and 14 seconds left. If they punt the ball away right here, they're probably not getting the ball again this half. And honestly, Washington might march down the field, kick a field goal, and now you find yourself trailing heading into halftime. Instead, Sirianni trusted his players. He decides to go for it. Hurts is going to flip the ball to A.J. Brown, who makes a big catch. They were able to get into field goal range. They scored a touchdown, and then the Commanders fumbled immediately after, and they scored another touchdown, and then that was essentially the dagger. Nobody talked about Nick Sirianni in this whole sequence, really, right? I mean, there was some talk before the play on the broadcast of, is this a good idea? But essentially what everyone said was great throw from Hurts and great play from A.J. Brown. And it was, and that was my reaction, and I didn't bring up the Sirianni decision when I made my video. I talked about the great play, because when a 4th down is converted, we tend to talk about the great play that the offense made to convert the 4th down. When a 4th down fails, we tend to blame the coach for having the 4th down play fail, which then means that the coach that goes for it more, even if it's the right decision, tends to get more criticism than a more conservative coach, even if they lose more. For Sirianni, for me, I think this is probably my biggest gripe I have with him, is certain situations. So pause it right here. It feels like he just overthinks things sometimes. And this is a great example of, and I think this is probably a bigger criticism. Now, it should be mentioned that I don't know exactly whose call it is to go with, whatever play in this situation. It could be Kellen Moore, but either way, it's the Eagles' offensive coaching staff, right? So if you want to blame Sirianni or not blame Sirianni, it's all part of the same umbrella, right? So this is a 2nd down and 7. The Eagles are currently up 6 points with 2 minutes and 14 seconds left. So if they can get a 1st down right here, it's not quite victory formation, but you're pretty close. However, on 2nd down, they're going to run this play action rollout towards the other side of the field. Hurts ends up, it just doesn't work out at all. Hurts gets sacked, and because of that, now they essentially have to just run the ball once more and then punt the ball away, and they needed their defense to hold, which it did, and they succeeded and they won. But this is an example of, and I think sometimes it can be frustrating for Eagles fans to say, hey, Nick, listen, sometimes just run the ball. Sometimes just do that, right? Again, there are instances when he does this and it works out. I showed you the Atlanta one when, okay, it didn't work out, but it should have, right? The play call worked out at the very least. But when the play calls don't work out, people are going to criticize you when you are maybe a bit more bold. And honestly, I think that's Nick Sirianni to a T, is he doesn't do the things that other coaches do. And some of the things he does are smart things, but because other coaches don't do it, we tend to not notice when he is correct, because then we're too busy giving credit to the players, which is fair. But then also when plays don't work out, then we start to criticize the coaching staff instead of maybe criticizing the players, which is probably what we should do. On the Atlanta play, probably should just be criticizing Saquon Barkley for dropping the ball, right? Instead of criticizing the coaching decision. But as a whole, and while we can sit here and say that this is a talented team, and it is, he's been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He's a good head coach. Like, he's a bit quirky. He's a bit weird. But yeah, he brings stuff to the table. Yes, he's a bit of a goofball sometimes. Yes, he yelled at his own fans. But you know what? If you're going to Super Bowls, you're allowed to do some things that maybe you're not allowed to do if you're, 5-10. So 5-10 is not a 5-12. I went the other way. That would be a 15-game schedule. Yeah, but those are kind of my thoughts on all of this. What do you think about Nick Sirianni? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.